allows the worship and the politics of Rome to mesh together. See, so you see how they wanted to take the doctrine of the true church and mix it in and control it. So I want to get into the 501c3 because it is important to understand that this is the reason why the churches can't operate in true power. This is the reason why the churches cannot properly arm the sheep in sound doctrine and sound biblical knowledge, because they have already been mixed. They have already relinquished the constitutional right of the separation of church and state. They have now amalgamated it. And so because of that, now we're back under the same laws that we are supposed to really be operating under separation of church and state, and to be free from political control. But then when you have the pastors and these preachers who have subscribed back to the same system that we were supposed to be free from, now you can see how they operate in a sense of monetary gain at the expense of telling the truth. At the expense of telling the truth, they want the political, and not the political, but they want political gain too now. Because I know it's a lot of pastors in a lot of states that they have even crept into politics. And you could get into a situation, or you could get into a church life where these churches have established, and one of the narratives of these churches is that you may have a pastor as a 33rd degree Freemason. And so now you have 33rd degree Freemasons in the pulpit, but then you also have them on the deacon board. And this is the reason why the church can't get anywhere, because they have mixed themselves with the politics. Hence, a Holy Spiritless church. Holy Spiritless church. Now, if you are operating in these temples, in these churches who have subscribed to a 501c3 tax exempt status, then you know that they're operating under government control. But now you have to ask yourself, who controls and owns the government? Who controls and owns the government? I tell you who controls and owns the government. Israel. The fake Israel that has been established in 1948, they dominate this world over here from Israel. And so now when you talk about the government over here in this country, the churches are operating right up under the political control now of Israel, and they are dominating the churches and the doctrine that is spewed or that has been taught to the sheep in the congregation. And so therefore, this is the reason why the congregation can't get the true word. We can't get the true word because the pastors have been paid and bought and silenced to even talk about the issues of this world. So they can't get, I told you, they can't get into homosexuality. They can't get into corrupt politicians. They can't get into who the true Jews and the true Israelites are. They can't get in teenage pregnancy. They can't get into sterilization and Planned Parenthood. They can't get into drug addiction. They can't get into any of the atrocities that affect us as a community. And it just would seem kind of coincidental to me, because we have a lot of Baptist church, and we know that black folk, we are the Baptists. The Baptist church contains majority of black people, black folks. So now we have these black pastors with a black congregation in these black communities, yet and still they can't cover black issues. That is a problem. That's a problem. That's an issue there. And so therefore, we don't understand the magnitude of the issues that are going on, because they have been silenced so that they do not propagate this stuff. They don't teach us that. They just give us a feel-good message so that we can keep operating in a system that's destroying us. So now under 501c3 tax exempt status, yes, your church, they may operate in such a way that they can get perks from the government. They're able to receive loans. They're able to maybe receive funding for housing and funding for additional buildings that would actually supplement the church. But my thing is, all you have to do is just preach the true word and cover the topics of all of the issues that affect us as a community. And we will not have to be under government control. We wouldn't even have to subscribe to the housing and all of the resources of the church that they get from even being under a 501c3 tax exempt status. If you would just teach us who we are as a people, we could come up from under government control. We would know who we are. See, because you can supply housing for people, but if they are still in the same spiritual and mental condition that they are in, they still won't know who they are, and thus they will still be up under government control, and they'll still be up under government funding and government's resources without having the knowledge and the true Holy Spirit, spiritual knowledge, to be able to come up from under government's resources and government help. So, it's almost the same analogy when you talk about if you give a man a fish, he can only eat for that one day. But if you teach a man how to fish, he can eat for a lifetime. Well, I feel that way about the church and the pastors in these churches. If you would just teach the people, you could, hey, listen, you give them that word for one day, and that word is only going to last for what? A few days. And then they're going to be right back, and then they're going to hear the same message that they heard last week and the same message they heard last month, last year, the same one surrounding these pagan holidays, where if you would just teach them who they are and cover the issues of the communities and cover the issues of the world, the same issues that are being silenced by the government so that we don't know who we are, then if we would touch those issues, then we would be empowered as a people to be able to establish some economical base for ourselves, and we would not need the pastor. But the pastor needs to keep the congregation under control. And so now how can the pastor keep us under control? How can he do that? Well, he does that by operating under government control. And so now it just seems like we are a bunch of Holy Spiritless people operating in the churches. And so again, the churches have become social clubs. They have become organizations. They have become a business operating through government funding. And these pastors have been paid to shut up, paid to stay silent on the issues that matter the most, on the issues that are killing us, on the issues that are keeping us mentally and emotionally and spiritually enslaved and in bondage. See? Now, we understand that it's really all about a check. See, that's really what these pastors want. They really want the check. So, and really instead of them pastoring and shepherding over y'all's people, it's really all about a check. Because to be honest with you, the Holy Spirit teaches you all things. So you mean to tell me you had to go get that seminary degree? You had to go get that divinity and that theology degree? You had to go get that? Or was it about the money? Because let me tell you something. Even Matthew chapter 6 verse 24 says that no one can serve two masters. Either he'll hate the one and love the other, or else he'll hold the one and despise the other. No one can serve both God and money. So now who are you really serving if you are under fear or in fear that if you say certain things that will cover the issues of who we are as a people and cover the issues that affect us as a people, if you're scared to talk about that because your 501c3 tax exempt status would be revoked, that means that you are not operating in the full power of the Holy Spirit. How could you? Because he did not give us a spirit of fear. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 says that he did not give us a spirit of fear, but a power of love and a sound mind. So now how could we be operating in fear and in the Holy Spirit at the same time? We can't be. We understand that the government, the operating of the government infuses fear. See, but when we operate truly and fully in the Holy Spirit, we're infused with power. So we have mixed the power of the Holy Spirit with the traditions of men. We have mixed the Holy Spirit with the governing forces and the political and economical and religious views and laws and the governing tactics of a system instead of the power of the Holy Spirit. We're operating now under monetary gain. And when I'm not saying we, I'm just saying as pastors, as religious leaders in these churches, in these what I would like to call the synagogues of Satan. And I say that because you're operating from the government, but then your discernment, who's behind them? Who's behind operating the government? And so when we subscribe to this amalgamation of church and state, we're operating in what I would like to call Baal temples. This is Baal worship, sun worship. This is the reason why we're operating and we're worshiping on a Sunday. Why? Because it all goes hand in hand with the governing forces of the Roman Catholic Church. Her doctrine done spread across the world. And it has spread, and it has been pervasive throughout kings of the history. And so now we have adopted the doctrine of the Roman Catholic Church, and so this is the reason why the doctrine is spread around. And now we're operating under a Babylonian system. And I told you the root word to Babylon is Babel, which means confusion. So we're operating in a confused system. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So let me read this here. It says, consequently, the separation of church and state has long been a governing principle of laws and policies within the U.S., and it is extremely portentous for the government to reach out to religious leaders in an attempt to control the citizens. So this is what the 501c3 is really all about. They say it's a tax shelter. And you could be, and what it would be is that you would recognize your church as a contributor to being tax exempt, and thus you could be it could then be tax deductible. It would be tax deductible on your tax returns. And so most pastors, they would rather be under a 501c3 tax exempt status because they would enjoy, they wouldn't have members. Members wouldn't even tithe if they did not know that they would be able to write that off or get a tax statement showing that they did contribute to a church who is recognized by the jurisdiction of the state as being a 501c3 tax exempt church or an organization. And in 1954, the then Senator Lyndon B. Johnson, President 36, told the pastors it was a favor for them to sign a government document about protecting them under a 501c3 tax exempt status, but it was really only so the government could have and exercise more control over the churches. And so what I'm saying is that, and here's the thing, these presidents are Freemasons. So you already know the direction. Listen, they're trying to usher this world into a new world order. And they're trying to usher this world into accepting the coming Antichrist. And so they had to use a religious system to do so. So they have to use Christianity. They have to use these churches. Now, this is what the Bible means when it says come away from Babylon. And I'm going to get into that too. Now,